manage mind. So as we all are well aware of, we have been through the emotional ringer lately. The whole coronavirus thing has thrown a big wrench in everybody's collective plans. And of course, there's so many things that are different and new right now, and our brains might just be running away with fear and anxiety. So today I wanted to make you a video to help you start to conquer whatever's happening in your internal world and to help you start feeling better even in this time of upheaval and uncertainty. So if you need a little bit of a pep talk and if you need to get a hold of your corona-based fears, then be sure to keep watching. What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen. I am a spiritual life and business coach, and you have found my YouTube channel where I bring you 2 new videos every week all about the art of combining manifestation and mindset work together in order for you to create your best life. So I'm doing this to help you go from struggle to sparkle, and if that sounds like something you're interested in, then be sure to keep watching. So welcome back you guys. As I said at the top of the video, today I'm going to be talking all about corona-based fear and anxiety. If you happen to be watching this video though 5 years down the road and we are no longer thinking about coronavirus, you will probably still find these same tips apply, because at the end of the day, it isn't really about what is actually happening in the world. What it comes down to, and the only way we can make ourselves feel better about it, is by learning how to manage our own mind and our own inner game. So that's what today's video will be about, and these tips will, like I said, be applicable to pretty much any situation. So if you are feeling tense, if you're feeling scared, I totally understand you. And if you watched my video from last week, you will know I actually, my roommate in this place that I'm living in had actually been diagnosed with coronavirus, and we were both actually quarantined. So basically I was on house arrest for almost 2 weeks, and you know, there was a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear about that. Like, am I going to get this too? And what is this going to be like, etc., etc. And actually I came through it and I didn't feel anything at all really. So either I had it and I was asymptomatic, or I didn't have it at all. I'm not sure. But either way, I still had to deal with the mindset stuff. And so I want to help to bring this to you guys, because I know people are still struggling with this. Like, we have had a couple weeks to wrap our brains around it, but you know, dealing with the daily struggle is a little bit different. So hopefully these tips today will help to make you feel better and more centered and more calm and more like your normal, wonderful self. So without any further ado, let's get into the tips today. So tip number 1 that I wanted to give you guys straight off the bat is to start limiting your screen time or your news intake time. So we might be stuck at home. We might be, you know, quarantined, self-isolating, and spending a lot more time on our own than we normally do. And the temptation, of course, is to fill up that time with scrolling through Facebook, scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through whatever. And, you know, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with these things, but when you start to get sucked into the endless news cycle, and there's like terrifying headline after terrifying headline after terrifying headline, it is about more than the news. It is about more than you just being a conscious, aware human. It becomes you putting yourself in a sort of mental line of danger, okay? You are not distancing yourself from these events. You are letting your emotions getting carried away with them, because that's what they're designed to do. So I did a live stream on Facebook, so if you're watching this after, you might have seen these same tips over there. But what I said in that live stream was that the news is, you know, we think of the news as a place to get information and a place to get facts. So that is one of the jobs of a news broadcaster, whether it's like on TV or online. But the secondary aim of all of these organizations is to get you to keep watching, and to hook you into keep watching the next video, or to hook you into keep reading, or to hook you into coming back tomorrow and finding out more information. So the news has an obligation to tell you things, but it is also trying to keep you hooked. And it does that through keeping you afraid and leaving you feeling like things are out of control and that you really need to monitor the situation. So if you're sucked into the news cycle, of course that is going to spike your levels of fear. The news, I'm being very general when I say the news, but they are using your emotions to keep you on the hook. They are using your sense of survival that we all have inside of us to keep you coming back for more. And this really isn't good for you, and nor is it actually helping you. So I would, I'm not going to tell you not to read the news. Of course, like I said, I think it's important to stay informed, but I really think it's important for all of us to exercise limits. So maybe give yourself a time in the morning or a time in the afternoon, do your reading then, click on all the headlines, do what you got to do, and then after that, then put it away and refuse to go back in and see what the latest things are, because it's just going to keep telling you things that maybe aren't untrue and that are going to make you feel more out of control. So why would you keep wanting to do that to yourself when there is another way? The second tip I want to give you guys today, and this is a big one, but this is really all about understanding that the fear in your brain is really a survival mechanism, right? So we have to think about our physiology and remember that we are human creatures that came from very primitive creatures. And at one point in time, it was a survival skill. Being afraid of things was part of our survival. If you were hyper aware of what was around you and you were hardwired to look for danger, that probably meant that you survived. And since we are all obviously the descendants of the survivors, we got all the genetics for the fear, right? So that might have helped out our old many millennia ago relatives, but it is not really that helpful for us today. Even in a situation like this corona pandemic, being afraid all the time isn't actually doing you any favors. But it's really important to understand what your brain is trying to do. Your brain is basically looking for the tiger in the jungle, right? Even though there isn't a tiger around, and there's, of course, if you are dealing directly with the virus itself, yes, there's a physical element to this time, but for most of us, there isn't, right? Like, we need to remember that we're not going to immediately, pass away if we go outside or something like that. And even with the coronavirus, of course, there is a huge danger element. And of course, we should be exercising caution. But even then, not every single person that gets it has to be hospitalized or has a really intense case. So it's also important to remember that as well. Anyway, remembering that fear is ultimately here to protect you can help you have a little bit of compassion for yourself and for what your brain is putting you through right now, because your brain is just trying to protect you. So if you are feeling like you're always like looking for that next thing to be afraid of, and that you feel like worrying has become your part-time job, just remember that this is just part of your biology, and this is what essentially brought you here. And I'm going to go into more about how you can unhook yourself from that in another tip, but this is a good place to start, is just understanding where this fear is really coming from, and understanding that there's a difference actually in between this feeling of fear and there actually being danger in the world. Like, there are things to be aware of right now, but going outside is not the kind of danger that your brain is looking out for right now. Your brain is exaggerating in order to keep you safe. And when you understand that exaggeration, that makes it a little bit easier to let go of it. So that is my second tip. My third tip for you guys is to remember to be mindful. So when we are feeling anxiety and fear, most of the time we are future projecting, which means we are thinking about a scenario far off in the future that we can't even do anything about. And of course, that is a terrifying thing, because your imagination can think of all kinds of different things that could happen. Yet here you are in this present moment where you can't do anything to solve any of those problems. So you're basically worrying about things that you cannot possibly solve. And of course, that is going to leave you feeling out of control and even more terrified. So what I want you to do to help combat this is to remember the power of the present moment, okay? So if you want to think about this whole experience that we're having in a spiritual sense, I really think this is a great time for us to learn how to hit that reset button, connect with ourselves, come back and just sit still with ourselves, which is something that we don't really do that often. But I want you guys to take a deep breath with me right now. Just close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath in and release. And I want you to notice where you are in your chair, Maybe you're sitting on a bed, maybe you're on the sofa. If you're driving, please don't do this. But wherever you are, I just want you to take a moment and notice, how does your body feel? How does your mind feel? How does your physical form feel? Like, feel any sensations and just notice them. You don't need to change them. You don't need to do anything new, but just coming back and remembering this present moment will make you start to feel like you're in control again. And the magic of the present moment is, if we slow down, if we stop future projecting, if we stop freaking out about things that we can't do anything about right now, we'll realize that in this moment, all we've got to do is breathe. All we've got to do is sit here and breathe and feel ourselves. And there is literally nothing wrong with that right now, right? If you can do this, if you can come back and connect yourself, you will start to feel more empowered and more connected to where you are, which is right here, right now. And you are totally safe and everything is totally fine. There are things in the world that are going a little wonky, but you are totally okay. And it is so important to remember that. So my fourth tip for you guys today is to be aware of your body posture, okay? So when it comes to our brain chemistry and our physiology, one informs the other, but it also works the other way around. So we like to think that if we're feeling depressed, we will automatically take on that kind of depressed posture, like hunched over, you know, covering yourself up, protective kind of poses like that, right? So we think that that is where that posture comes from. But the interesting thing is, you can actually cue your brain to start feeling more depressed and to feeling more paranoid or scared or whatever by going into that posture even when you don't feel that way. So the problem with this is, when we all get out our favorite devices and we spend a lot of time on our phone, we end up automatically going over into this hunched over, bent over posture, which automatically cues our brain into thinking that we are hiding from something, or thinking that we are fearful, or thinking that we are anxious. So in that way, your physiology can trigger your anxiety. It can make your brain feel that way, even though it might not have felt that way to begin with. So it's really just important to be aware of what you are doing in your physical space throughout the day. And again, I know we're stuck at home, and maybe you are not working in your normal office, and maybe you're being a little bit more lax with what you do throughout your day, but it's still really important to be aware that sitting up straight and putting your shoulders back, this alone will make you feel better. I know it sounds crazy, but if you stay in one of these power postures for a little while, even like 2 minutes, that can start to trigger your brain to feel better. So if you're feeling anxious and down and you have spent the last 2 hours like this, then maybe it is time for you to do a little bit of yoga, take a walk around the block, stand up, stretch, and pull your shoulders back, put your chin up, and make yourself feel better. Like, you can actually cue yourself to start feeling better just from your posture. So really try that one out. It's a super important tip. So my fifth tip for you guys today, I'm going to come back to the mind management stuff. So we've already sort of discussed about fear and where that's coming from physiologically, but I didn't really tell you how to get past it. And so this tip is all about that. I'm just giving you a quick overview here. Like, if you really want to get into this stuff, I'd really advise you to come and make a coaching call with me, or to come and enroll in my Mindset Alignment School program that will really help you to walk through this stuff more in depth. However, let's get into it right now. And the thing that everyone should really understand about the way that they feel at any moment in time is that your feelings always come from a thought. So if you're feeling fearful, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling like that right now, I just really want to challenge you to come back and find the core thought, okay? And I know when it comes to fear and anxiety, there's probably a bunch of core thoughts, and we're spending a lot of time worrying about all these things individually. So slow it down and pick one. So maybe right now you are not working, and maybe right now you're worried about your financial future, or maybe right now you're worried about the economy in general, or maybe right now you're worried about your physical health or the health of somebody you know. So whatever the thing might be, I want you to come back and identify it, right? So as soon as you can identify that one thing, then we can start to do a little bit of work around that. Even just identifying that one thought and understanding that that thought is causing the feeling, that can help you get control, because our external events, even the coronavirus, these things are neutral, right? This virus coming to the planet doesn't mean anything, right? Just as, you know, the Spanish flu coming around earlier this century, that didn't mean something. That was just something that happened. That is something that humanity experienced, right? It is a neutral event. But we are creating chaos and we are creating drama because we are making up a story about what this thing means. So if you can find what your core thought is and figure out what meaning you are giving that, then you can choose to create a different meaning, right? So if you're thinking, I lost my job, I'm never going to be employed again, blah, 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 blah. And that's like the way your thinking is going. You can really challenge yourself to be like, well, is this really true? Is this true? Yes, maybe I got laid off, but does that mean I'm never going to be employed again? Does that mean my whole industry is tanking and will never survive again? Does that mean they will never need another web designer or a barista or whatever it is, whatever you are? Do you think that that really means that they will never need somebody like you on this planet ever again in a planet of 7 billion people? So that's just one example, right? Like, we are so good at talking ourselves into this high generated fear state, even though when it comes down to it, when we look at what we're really being afraid of, most of the time we are creating this story that isn't actually real. So that was a really quick explanation for this work, but this should hopefully help you to point yourself in the right direction and start to understand where your fears are really coming from so you can get a hold of them. So again, if you need more help with that, you want to jump on a coaching call with me, then come on over to the site and set one up. And if you want to learn more, go into my Mindset Alignment School. That's where we go into this in detail. And my final tip for you guys today, my 6th tip for you guys today, is to simply surrender, which might not sound like a lot of fun. And I don't mean surrender as in, well, we're all here, I guess I'm gonna die. I don't mean that kind of surrender, but I just mean surrendering to the moment. Because again, your brain wants order, your brain wants to understand things, your brain wants a linear, you know, storyline that we know we can follow. And the problem is right now, no one knows what the storyline is. No one knows exactly what is going to happen next, okay? There's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of drama, and our brain is still running around and doing its thing. Like, it personally needs to figure out every last detail in order for the world to be right again. So when you understand that your brain is taking on this gargantuan task, that really it's not up to us individually, it is up to, you know, us collectively, and it's up to, you know, people in the government, but it isn't up to us specifically, yet we worry like it is. So if you can understand that and you can take a deep breath and let go of that and be okay with not knowing. I think that is the hardest part for many of us to wrap our brain around. Being okay with not knowing something is not something that we take lightly, right? Like, we like to figure things out. We like to worry about all the possibilities. We like to try to think ourselves into any situation. And the truth is, actually, in real life, we can't ever do that. We tell ourselves we can, but it's all really just an illusion. There's a lot more that we can't control in this world than we would like to admit to ourselves. And right now, it's just a real challenge for us to learn how to sit with this and be at peace with it, and be at peace with not knowing everything and not being in control of everything, and like just having to trust that things are going to happen as they come and that we will be able to figure it out in that moment. So that is a very big thing to wrap your head around sometimes, but it's also like, whew, the weight of the world is off your shoulders, and learning how to trust yourself and trust your fellow humans to do the right thing, like, that is really a beautiful spiritual exercise. So I'd really challenge you to sit with that one, especially if you're having resistance around it. That probably really means you need it the most. Okay, so that's it for the tips today. And what did you guys think? I would love to know what you guys thought of this video, and I would love to know what you guys are personally struggling with when it comes to corona fear, corona anxiety, all of the worry about all the uncertainty right now. I'd really love to know where you guys are at, and if any of these tips really landed for you, go ahead and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you about this. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and give it a like. If you know a friend that could use this message, then go ahead and pass it along to them. If you want to watch my latest upload, you can go ahead and do that right here. And if you want to hang out for the long haul, hit subscribe right here. Other than that, I'll be back in the next one. So until then, I'm wishing you a magical week, and as always, just remember, get ready for the miracle. See you guys.